everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing a book review on Unbroken by Hillenbrand. This book follows the life of Louis Zamperini, who was a World War II POW. And just in case you guys didn't know, Hillenbrand was the author of the book Seabiscuit, and it is actually during her time writing and researching Seabiscuit that she came across the story of Louis Zamperini and became just really interested in the things that had happened to him and his life story. This is a book that was recommended to me a million times over the course of the last year. There are a lot of people who I know who don't read a lot of books, but they ended up picking up this book and completely raving about it and telling me that I absolutely had to read it. I was a little bit hesitant and I kind of wanted to wait a little bit to see if I would actually like this book or not, or whether or not it was all hype and things like that. But I mean, this book was getting rave reviews literally everywhere. This book covers basically Louis's entire life. The very beginning starts off with a plane crash that happened, and then after that you sort of flash back and you find out a lot about his childhood and his family and what he was like growing up. It's really funny because all of that stuff sort of bothered me just a little bit because I didn't really seem to like Louis too much as a person in the beginning of the story. He seemed a little bit like a brat. During the first 100 pages I was just like, man, I'm not enjoying this book, but I also knew at the same time that I wasn't really into the real story yet, so I just kept pushing through. And then after the 100-page mark though, it picks up, especially since the book starts off with the plane crash. I kind of just wanted to get to the plane crash because I knew that's where the real story would get started, and then once you get to the plane crash I just couldn't put this book down. Reading this book, it's just absolutely insane because all of the things that Louis and his other POWs had to go through to survive and last during this time period is just so insane. His plane crashes in the middle of the ocean while they're on their way to Asia. He is literally lost at sea for over a month, and then eventually he lands up on the shores of Japan, and then he's taken as a prisoner of war. And just the things he has to deal with as a prisoner of war is just unimaginable. Over and over again I'm just like, how are these guys surviving in these situations? They're tortured and they are starved and they get little medical attention even though they seem to be suffering from so many different diseases. It's just completely astonishing that anyone was able to come out of this situation alive at all. And the story doesn't just end at the end of World War II, it shows the after effects of the war on all the different soldiers' lives. One of the major criticisms I've seen of this book is the fact that you do have to sort of take these stories with a grain of salt. You do have to wonder how reliable their memory is, especially after, decades, and how much of it was sort of fabricated or changed, or even just the general idea of people's memories aren't 100%, so how much of this is really what happened and how much of this is just what they think happened. In the end, I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. If you're someone who's interested in World War II or biographies or nonfiction books in general, I definitely think this is worth picking up. If you're someone who doesn't normally read nonfiction books, I'm not necessarily sure if this is the best one to pick up because there are parts of it that are a little bit slower and a little bit harder to get through. I will admit that there were sections where I was just kind of skimming because she was just sort of giving general history about World War II, and not that that's not interesting. I was more interested in the general plot line that was going through. So anytime it would diverge from that, I would get less interested in the book. But I still do feel like this is a book I would recommend to people. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys have read this book, what you all thought of it, or if you are interested in the book. Feel free to leave comments about that down below as well. I'd love to hear what you guys think. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching. Unbroken by Hillenbrand. That is not her name, Laura. This story follows Louis